Hi everyone, and welcome to the question and answer session on staying sober in the summer sun. I've had lots of questions that all centre around a similar theme. And Jerry from the UK has asked a question that kind of covers what other people are asking. So Jerry's question is, I'm managing to stick to not drinking Monday to Thursday, but on Friday evenings me and my workmates have started going to a beer garden by a river on the way home. I get pissed every time, and this sets the tone of my weekend. It's become a summer habit. I don't know how to get out of it. I can't imagine not going drinking, and I find myself wanting to go after a week of hard work. I've cracked the weekdays. I know I need to crack Friday nights. How do I deal with the pull of the beer garden and break this pattern? I just can't not go every week, Jerry says. First of all, Jerry, I want to say a massive well done for cracking the weekdays. I know this has been a huge achievement for you. Now, because you've cracked the weekdays, you already know you can do this. You can crack the weekends. It's just a case of thinking slightly differently about it. Now, you say you can't imagine going along on the Friday evening to the beer garden with your colleagues and not drinking. And the reason you can't imagine doing that is because you've never done it. You haven't done it yet. But just because you haven't done it yet doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you haven't practiced it. You need to practice it in order to be able to do it. Okay, Jerry, so here goes. And the answers or the tips I'm going to be giving you will also apply to most of the other questions that I've been sent. So first of all, You've described it as a summer habit. So the first thing you need to do is to break that habit, break that pattern. And you do that by doing something differently, just one small thing. So it could be that you decide one week to just not go. And you can have something else planned. You can have a prior commitment. You can arrange something with a niece or a nephew or somebody else in your family or another friend where you do something that doesn't involve alcohol. So you could take a friend, a nephew, a niece, or someone else in your family to the cinema, for instance. You can have a prior arrangement already planned, so it's easy for you to say to your work colleagues that you can't come this Friday because you're doing A, B, C, or D. You can come up with whatever works for you, but some kind of prior engagement. Some people find that taking up some kind of fitness activity, physical exercise, if you're not already doing that, can work really, really well here because it gives them a justifiable reason for why they can't make certain drinking events. So for instance, if you were training for a particular goal, if you had a particular amount of weight you wanted to lose, or for women, if there's a certain dress size you want to be. In fact, for men, if there's a certain size you want to be, it's a really good idea to have some kind of physical activity in your life that you can use as an excuse to not go to these events. So you could be training to do a half marathon, or you've started working out and you want to drop a dress size, or you want to lose a stone in weight. And so you're going to the gym on a Friday evening, or you're going to a particular class, or you're doing a particular activity on a Friday evening. So you come up with your reason in advance and you have that prior arrangement in advance. And then it becomes easy to say to your colleagues, or the people who are expecting you to go along with them, it's easy to say to them, oh, I can't come this week because I'm doing this for this reason. And to make it even easier on yourself, you can actually rehearse saying your reason, explaining to them what it is you're going to be doing. So as you're getting ready for work in the morning in the shower, you can be actually rehearsing the words you're going to use. You can be saying it out loud. So when it comes to telling your colleagues that you can't make it this week because ... it just rolls off your tongue really easily because you've been practicing it. So that's the first thing to do, is to come up with a prior arrangement. Don't go on Friday evening, break the pattern. So you can do this for maybe a couple of weeks. Have something planned that takes you away from that beer garden with your colleagues, but something that's going to be understandable and justifiable and that you're going to feel confident explaining to your work colleagues that that's what you're doing instead. When you've done that a couple of times and you've broken that pattern, when you're ready, you can go along. but only when you're ready and you feel confident to do this. You can go along. Now, whether you go along for half an hour and just show your face, or whether you go along for an hour, you make sure you're in control of the time that you spend there. So again, you might have pre-organised a prior commitment that only allows you to be there for an hour. So you've got a kind of escape route there, but you're going along and showing your face. The reason you haven't been able to imagine yourself going along on a Friday evening to the beer garden with your colleagues is because you haven't done it before. You can't imagine going along and staying sober and drinking soft drinks because it's not already happened. You need to make it happen in order to be able to imagine it happening. So, what you can do when you decide you're ready to go along that first time after you've taken a break and to only drink soft drinks, whether it's for half an hour, or for the whole evening, is you need to mentally rehearse yourself doing it. You need to actually imagine it happening. So you need to sit down, get yourself comfortable, close your eyes if you need to, and you actually need to visualize, imagine yourself going into the pub beer garden with your friends. Imagine yourself going to the bar and ordering the soft drink that you've already planned you're going to order. Imagine yourself, if it's someone else going to the bar, imagine yourself telling that person what it is you'd like to drink and having a reason at the ready as to why it's not an alcoholic drink, why you're drinking a soft drink. So it could be that you're going to the gym later. It could be that you've got to drive and pick your niece or nephew or somebody up from a party that they've gone to. There's all sorts of reasons you can come up with. You could be on antibiotics. You can come up with a vast array of different reasons as to why you can't drink an alcoholic drink, even though you've gone along to the beer garden with them, and why you might only be able to stay for a short length of time. So you're imagining this happening. You're imagining going to the bar and ordering your drink, your soft drink of choice. You're imagining telling your colleague what drink they need to order for you at the bar and why it's a soft drink. And you imagine the situation unfolding around you. You maybe imagine some of the challenges and some of the pressure that you might face from your colleagues to drink. Although in reality, you might actually be surprised that you don't actually face an awful lot of challenge and pressure. The people around us tend to care much less about what we're drinking, whether we're drinking or not, than we do. We're aware of our problematic or unhealthy relationship with alcohol, and the people around us are not particularly paying much attention to it. We're the ones that think we have a problem and nobody else is noticing. So don't be surprised if people don't really comment and don't really notice. This is something that we quite often build up in our own heads. And we become self-conscious about it, whereas the truth is other people are not batting an eyelid and they're not paying attention. So you can, when you're imagining this all unfolding around you, you can imagine some challenge, you can imagine some pressure, you can imagine people even taking the piss or taking the mickey. But it doesn't matter because you're going to be imagining how you deal with that successfully. And the more you imagine dealing with that successfully, the more you rehearse doing this and drinking soft drinks and staying sober, the more it trains your brain to expect that in reality. So when you actually go along for that first half hour or whole evening, and you've already imagined yourself doing it, it becomes so much easier. It's like you've already done it. You've already trained yourself to know, you've tricked that unconscious part of your brain into understanding that you can do this. This is possible for you. So you mentally rehearse in advance going into that beer garden on a Friday evening with your colleagues, totally sober and staying sober for the evening. And when you've done that, it opens the doors for you to actually do it in reality. And eventually, when you've mentally rehearsed this or imagined this a few times, and when you've actually done it once or twice, what happens is you become more and more comfortable with it. So you'll find yourself being able to stay for longer periods of time. And you'll also find yourself beginning to actually enjoy it and relax with it and realise that you didn't actually need to have a drink to have a good time. So 1, break the pattern. Do something differently. Take yourself away from the Friday evening beer garden with your colleagues and pre-plan and rehearse your excuses. Number 2, When you've done this a couple of times and you feel ready to go back to the beer garden situation, be in control of the amount of time that you spend there. Come up with pre-planned and pre-rehearsed reasons as to why you might only be staying for half an hour, why you're only drinking soft drinks, or why you might be staying an hour, 2 hours, or for the whole evening, however long you want to do it for. But pre-plan your reasons, your excuses, your justifications. And number 3, make sure you mentally rehearse. Imagine yourself going into that beer garden with your colleagues, successfully sober, dealing with whatever pressure and challenges you might get, and dealing with everything successfully sober. And when you do these 3 things, and the more you go into that beer garden situation on a Friday evening and stay sober, and maybe stay for shorter periods of time and have other things going on in your life that take you away from that some Friday evenings, you'll begin to realise that you can do this. So Jerry, let me know how you get on with that. I'd love to hear back from you. I'd love to know how you go about breaking the pattern. I'd love to know what other activities you come up with for your Friday evenings. And I'd love to know when you go back into that beer garden situations, what soft drinks you choose to drink, what you say to your colleagues, whether or not they give any kind of reaction, because they might give less of a reaction than you're expecting or anticipating. And let me know how you get on. Now, those 3 steps will apply to everybody that sent me a question in. But Jennifer in the States does have a question that's slightly different. Jennifer asks, why is it that she associates sunshine with relaxing, and part of the relaxing is drinking? She can't imagine being in the sun without a drink. Every time the sun comes out and she's outside, she hears people enjoying themselves in the sun. She says she just associates that with drinking, and she finds it really, really difficult to break that habit. So it's similar to what Jerry was saying, but slightly more general. Now, I want to deal with this question because it's quite important. When I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, I used to find any excuse to have a drink. So it could be that the sun was out and I associated the sun, just like Jennifer, I associated the sun with having a drink. Or it could be that it was a really miserable day outside and I was nice and warm and toasty inside, and I associated that sense of being cosy and toasty and relaxed with having a drink. It could be that I'd had a really stressful day at work and I needed to unwind and relax, so I wanted to have a drink. It could be that I'd had a fantastic day and I was doing something really exciting and I was really happy and I wanted to enhance that experience with having a drink. The point is, it's not the sun that's making you want to have a drink. You want to have a drink because you want to have a drink. That's what's driving you. And you've created a pattern of behaviour. You've programmed yourself to think that the only way you can relax, the only way you can have fun, the only way you can enjoy that sunshine, the only way you can relax in the evening, the only way you can de-stress, the only way you can get a good night's sleep is to have a drink. Now, at a logical level, that's all bullshit. But you've programmed yourself to believe that this is true. And so what's important with anything, whether it's the Friday evening with your colleagues in the beer garden, whether it's the sun coming out and that association between sun and drinking, it's just a programmed response that's all happening at a deeply unconscious level. And the way that you change that programmed response to the sunshine or to the Friday evening or to whatever it is, whatever the trigger is for you, is you do something differently. So you test yourself, you practice, you experiment. You decide that one day the sun comes out and, I don't know, you're going to have a barbecue, or you're going to go for a walk, you're going to go down by the river, maybe you are going to go to a beer garden, and you're going to experiment and you're going to try it out. What's it like when I do this and I have a soft drink? What happens to me? What happens to the conversation? What happens to my interaction? And sure, when you first do this, it's going to be different. You might even feel uncomfortable because it's not the same as it was when you were drinking. But you already know that you want to break this pattern, that you want to break this unhealthy relationship with alcohol. So you know you've got to do something differently. You also know that when you're practicing a new skill or a new habit, it is going to feel uncomfortable. It is going to feel different. So you can expect and anticipate that. But you can also know, you can rest assured that it's only going to feel uncomfortable for a short period of time. Any sense of discomfort that you might feel with being sober in the sun, sober in the beer garden, sober at the barbecue, it's only going to last a short period of time. It's temporary. The more you practice it, because this is a new skill that you're learning and it needs to be practiced just in the same way as any other skill, whether you're learning to play the violin, whether you're learning a new language, whether you're learning how to dance, it takes practice. You have to consciously concentrate on a new skill before it becomes unconsciously embedded and automatic. And it's exactly the same when you're learning to navigate the sunshine, the world around you, and all the outdoor events, the social gatherings. When you're learning to navigate them sober, you're learning a new skill, and it takes practice. So go out there, test yourself, practice. That whole association between the sunshine and drinking alcohol is an unconsciously programmed response. You're on automatic. And to change that, to flip that switch and to automatically be doing something differently, you have to practice doing something differently first. So get out there, get practicing, practice your Friday evenings, practice being in the sunshine sober, and let me know, comment below, how's it going for you? What have you discovered? What have you found? Next week, the topic is failure and how to approach it when you're trying to get sober and you slip up and you go back to reaching for a drink. So we're going to do a whole month on the topic of slipping up and getting back on track. If you'd like more advice, inspiration, motivation, tips and strategies on how to stop drinking and live life happily sober, subscribe to my channel. I'll look forward to catching up with you next week. And in the meantime, let's go get sober together.